Good morning. It's 3rd April. I'll try not to cough too much. I've been hacking pretty bad lately. Anyway, the only reason I'm doing this is I tried to post this on gab.ai. It didn't work because I said too much. But I was thinking about it because of all the topic about immigration. And I figured I just had to make a little bit of, throw a couple thoughts out there from a, perhaps for a different perspective, or at least from my perspective, from my family's perspective. Um, I'm not saying I'm right or I know what to do. I just want to throw something out there. And it has to do a little bit with just compassion for human beings. Plus, I'm not a globalist. The only time I'll be a globalist is when Jesus sits on his throne in Jerusalem. I'm a nationalist and I believe in that. But anyway, I wanted to title this is if I posted it all, is some of my thoughts on immigration. And I wrote this up in a little, it's like one page, so if you just bear with me, I'm going to read it to you. And I'm just throwing a couple of thoughts out there. Some of my thoughts on immigration. Please bear with me for a few moments in order to express a few thoughts for consideration. Family background. On my mother's side, her family is from Durham. Her names are Hunt and Copley. This is my Scotch-Irish half. I'm guessing they've been here since way before the U.S. ever became a country. Before one suspects if they or we were rich, we have a picture of my grandmother in 1909 when she was 8 years old. They were mule farmers, scratching a living out of the soil. On my father's side, my great-great-grandfather and my great-grandfather and his stepmom came across from Holland in 1865. My father's family names are Beltman and Trompen. My great-grandfather and his fathers before him were farmers. My father was born in Amoy, China in 1922. My father served in the United States Marine Corps Reserves, 4 years active from 1941 to about 52 or 53. By his own testimony, he considered his service in the Pacific, company clerk, as nothing compared to the service of his peers. My father was discharged from the Marine Reserves when he was commissioned in the Army and received his JAG appointment. I was born in 1960 in Berlin, including my little sister in 1962. There were 6 of us living in a German house in West Berlin, 6 children. From about 1960 to 1965, my father was an Army captain whose job was to go back and forth through Checkpoint Charlie. My father saw the other side of the wall when Berlin was encircled by Soviet tanks when Khrushchev and Kennedy went toe-to-toe. Perhaps this is partly why he wrestled with alcohol for a long time. My sister served 10 years in the Army, my brother 10 years in the Navy, one brother-in-law 20 years in the Army, another brother-in-law gave 10 years to the Air Force, as well as his sense of balance. As a child, we lived about 5 years in Berlin, 2 years in Japan. I have a daughter-in-law who is Mexican, a sister-in-law who is Guatemalan, 3 stepsons who are half Filipino, as well as grandkids, nieces, and nephews. My wife's niece is a half American Indian. Personal additions. I served in the United States Navy as a Westpac sailor from July 1978 to July 1984. I also played with the Maryland Air National Guard and USAF inactive reserves for a few years, 1997 and 2003. I served with my fellow sailors around the Pacific Rim, the Indian Ocean, Persian Gulf, Oman, Northern Africa, etc. Before my 21st birthday, I had been as far east as Berlin and as far west as Nairobi, Kenya. Kenya was very nice. People are the same everywhere, just trying to scratch a living. I am not talking about the fanatics who want to kill everyone. 10 years before the crap hit the fan, my crewmates and I, as part of a constant 6-day rotation, about 32 hours days, patrol, we landed many times in Moog. We used to fly in food and water for the embassy in our luggage rack we carried in our Bombay. At that time, Moog was the 10th poorest country in the world. Very poor, but it had a government. and it was not what it became 10 years later. Who can fathom what changed everything? That wasn't just us. We were one of 9 crews doing that constantly. Okay, I said all the above, so maybe you can understand where I'm coming from. I do believe in legal immigration. Of course I do. We are the sons and daughters of immigrants and indentured servants. However, I do not know if it is true, but I have heard it surmised, for example, if a Mexican living on the border of the U.S. wants to be a legal immigrant, they must first travel to Mexico City to start their applications. Is this insane? Most of these people have very little. Why would we ever want to make it virtually impossible to legally immigrate? I guarantee if you and I had to travel to Mexico in order to feed our families, we would. I feel pretty confident in this claim. Yes, we need a wall. Yes, we need to protect our country from thugs. Yes, we should deport the gangbangers. Remember, though, when the police and governments fail in their responsibility to protect and serve the locals are forced like rats in a cage to do what they must. And I'm just going to add a note here. I was in L.A. in 1985 when all these drive-bys started. And I remember people living on their living room floors, watching TV because bullets were coming in the house because of the freaking gangbangers. Remember, tens upon tens of thousands of good people have died in Mexico because of the drug wars and crime families, and perhaps even because of governments' unknown covert operations. I have no personal knowledge of these things. We do not need to carry the world on our back. Let us try to help each other stand on our own 2 feet. If one will not work, let him not eat. I think someone else said that, didn't they? I have seen some pretty hard-working people all over the world of all races. They have my deepest respect and admiration. Anyway, thanks for bearing with the rants of an old man. Respectfully, John Beltman, 2 April 18, JB, a.k.a. my old man's name. The middle name is mine, which makes me John. Anyway, sorry to make you guys endure this. Nobody listens to my videos anyway, but I'm thinking I'll probably end up posting it and then linking it back to from Gav AI too. Let's just treat people like human beings. That doesn't mean they have a free license to come into the country. It just means that so they have a slightly different culture or skin color. Does it matter? Oh well. Okay, anyway, sorry, and thanks for putting up with my rants. Have a good day.